Wow. You're calling me out. This is great. I like
No,
this.
you know what? Your response, your wow, is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Businesses everywhere get up every day, start over and over and over again, and are like, oh, well, this time I'm going to build the model this way. This time I'm going to build my pricing this way. This way I'm going to build my promotion this way. I'm going to focus on innovation this way. And they never think about the just ginormous pit that sits in front of anybody being able to engage with them, which is, what is it that I'm doing for them? And they're like, oh, it's obvious. I'm an SEO company, so they should know what it is I'm going to do. Well, yeah, but there's 5,000 SEO companies out there. What is it that you're doing for them that they can go, you know what, you're right. I can't walk away from this table because you're right. The thing you give me is exactly what I need to have. So looking at it through that lens, what's the thing?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Billion Dollar Brand Podcast. Bill,
Bryan,
you're
how
fired
are you,
up.
sir? Fired up today.
What is on your mind? What's gotten you so fired up?
I'm fired up today because I ran into a truth that I think we jump over all the time. You know, the Billion Dollar Brand Podcast is about helping businesses find that one step that gets them around whatever the hurdle is that's in front of them. And, you know, I was reminded today that most of us are more out of touch with our value than we think we are. A lot of times we think, well, what we say, the way we do it, it'll come through. People will understand it. And they don't realize just how important it is to be able to say succinctly what it is that they stand for. Here's a better way to say it. What is the one value that you bring to your audience? So, Bryan, I'm going to test it on you.
Okay.
When you think about your company, what is the single thing that you bring to your audience, your client set, that's better than anything else that you do? Like, what is the one thing that you want them to walk away and tell every friend they have, holy crap, you work with Bryan and you get blank?
Wow. You're calling me out. This is great. I like this.
No, you know what? Your response, your wow, is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Businesses everywhere get up every day, start over and over and over again, and are like, oh, well, this time I'm going to build the model this way. This time I'm going to build my pricing this way. This way I'm going to build my promotion this way. I'm going to focus on innovation this way. And they never think about the just ginormous pit that sits in front of anybody being able to engage with them, which is, what is it that I'm doing for them? And they're like, oh, it's obvious. I'm an SEO company, so they should know what it is I'm going to do. Well, yeah, but there's 5,000 SEO companies out there. What is it that you're doing for them that they can go, you know what, you're right. I can't walk away from this table because you're right. The thing you give me is exactly what I need to have. So looking at it through that lens, what's the thing?
Yeah. So our tagline, right or wrong, has been, we make engaging stories that help you build your brand and revenue. That's sort of attached to it. But I would say, in another way, me compared, like, how am I differentiated between all my other peers who make pretty pictures with cameras or, you know, do video or even produce podcasts? The main difference for me compared to them is two things. Most of them don't have any strategy attached to that. So there are some amazing cinematographers, DPs out there. They can make the most incredible videos look amazing, beautiful, cinematic, but there's no strategy. And so to me, I feel like, you know, if you don't have strategy attached to what you're doing, you're just like this ship out there without a rudder. You're cruising along the ocean, but you don't necessarily have a path, you know, a destination, a goal. And so I try to bring strategy to all of our projects, and I think, to me, that's the one.
So out of curiosity, with your sales pitch and your website language and all the rest of it, is that what you lead with? Is that what you teach with? Is video without strategy is just, you know, motion without direction?
Yeah, I think I would add, there's a lot of waste. So like if you start down a marketing path, you start spending money either to create organic content or paid content, that you're wasting a lot of time and energy if you don't have strategy attached to that marketing. And so baked into that is this value proposition that we can not only save you money, but be more efficient with your spend and really help you hit a target or the targets.
I think businesses don't spend enough time defining what that is for their target group and then really doing one thing. I think what they do, what I'm watching over and over again, is that they've said, well, I can make a little money here and I can make a little money there and I can do this thing and I can do that thing. And, oh, well, hey, if we've got this equipment, we can do this other thing and this other thing. I think the efficiency of all of it is in saying, I'm going to do the hardest part ever. I'm going to burn all of the 5%, 10%, 20% ships, and I'm going all in on one thing and just that one thing. And I think what I see is that the businesses that do that, and this is the thing that they all get terrified about, and it happens everywhere, right? Like I've got clients that are doing the same thing where they'll sit down and they'll say, well, we make tennis shoes, so now we're gonna make high heels, and then we're gonna make loafers, and then we're gonna make that. And it's like, wait a second, but that's not what you're good at. That's not what you're passionate about. They're like, yeah, but we could kind of do it. Like we get how to make shoes, so maybe we should, branch off and go do this other thing. And I don't think they realize how much damage they're doing to their potential for scale by not just saying, we make great spoons.
Yeah.
And the reason we make great spoons is because some spoons are too deep and some spoons are too shallow and some are too round and some aren't round enough. And the whole thing is we get the perfect dynamic for the perfect spoon. And then go out and say, this is why your spoon sucks. Here's all the reasons that you're suffering from poor spoonage, and we're going to fix that. And that's the name of the company, is Spoonage. And it's like, we're all in on spoon and we get this.
I would call it spoon me, but that's neither here nor there. So give me a fair score on my answer. 1 out of 10.
I would have to take a look. Show me let me see your website real quick.
Oh, our website is under construction. It's
this is what I would say. I would say, I think it needs to be tighter and more succinct, right? This idea of video without strategy is blank. Yeah. Because at that point, then when you walk into somebody and you're like, they make videos, we make videos, everybody makes videos, why should you care? The answer is because too many people are making videos that are just moving. They're not doing anything. They're not saying anything. The question is, before you sit down, before you leave my office during this call, Zoom call, introduction call, whatever, you're going to know why you're making the video, how you're going to reach through to the video, what the video is going to do for you, and you're going to have to tell me how it relates back to your bigger, broader vision of success on behalf of the company. Do you need to make a video? Like, I think if you're dedicated down to it at that level where it's like, are you going to make a video? And if you're going to make a video, it had damn well better be a video worth seeing. Then all of a sudden there's a value prop, right? Because then it's changed from, hey, I'm Brian and I make videos, and if you're sitting in front of me, my job is to sell you a video, to, hey, I'm Brian and my company happens to make videos that scale companies, but I'm not going to make one for you unless you know why you're making it. And all of a sudden that pushes a whole new value system. And knowing you, I know that you do that anyway, but I'm just saying, as it relates to the way that your brand precedes you in messaging and marketing, when you start looking at it through that lens, all of a sudden it's like, well, how safe am I playing it on my messaging? And that's where I think the difference is, right? When you are hardcore leaned into it, don't care if anybody else likes it, this is what we do, this is how we do it, all of a sudden you stand above the rest of the crowd. People can't help but notice because they go, wow, those folks are really dedicated to X.
Yeah. Can I tell you 2 case studies I just thought of as you were talking about that? One is I sat down with Sean Riley, who runs that brand, Dude Wipes, where we talked about Dude Wipes a couple of episodes back. And Sean actually made this mistake. He talked about it, how after Dude Wipes was, $100 million company and they were doing fantastic and backed by Mark Cuban and got a Shark Tank deal, that he thought, oh, we'll just, we'll do like a shampoo or a deodorant or, foot cream, whatever it is. And he realized that was a huge mistake. And although they did sell through the product that they made, he totally, pulled everything off the shelf, decided not to do that, and just double, triple, quadrupled down on the Dude Wipes things. Now, they have XL Dude Wipes and XXL Dude Wipes, and they have little mini mobile packs that you can put in your glove box, or if you're a woman, put in your purse or your pocket. It was the same product, just different shapes and sizes. And so he really is taking to heart what you're saying about hyper focus on just basically one thing.
Well, and let's take a look at what it is at the catalyst behind all of that, because it's very specific. It is fear and impatience. These are the two things that drive this. Okay, so here's how the mentality goes, right? We go out and we're good at something. Okay, we've made Dude Wipes. Now, granted, your point is well made. If you're going to expand, then let's expand into different types of Dude Wipes because they make sense, because that's the brand story, right? Like that's the brand. So if you're going to do that, what happens is if investors are involved, investors say, you're not making money fast enough. Hurry the fuck up. So let's go. Make some more money and make it faster and put it in my hand, damn it. And the clock is ticking and let's fucking go. And we've all been around investor groups that are that way, and they're sitting there banging on the desk and tapping on the phone and thumping their foot. And you're like, okay, I got to do something. And so they start innovating, but they don't innovate for a purpose. They don't see an actual opportunity, really. What they're doing is they're trying to appease, right? This is that, I'm not going to write you a love song because you say you need one, right? This is the whole thing, right? There's the same concept. So that's what happens. Or they say, well, I made $10 million doing wipes, and now I'm bored with it. Like I made some money and that thing is going, and they get a false sense of security or success. And they're like, okay, I'm making 100 million, I'm making 20 million, I'm making 5 million, I'm making 2 million, whatever. We must need to go wider. And what they don't realize is that when they start adding, okay, we were making wipes, now we're going to make razors. And then when we're doing that, we're going to make aftershave. And then after that, we're going to do whatever. What they don't realize is that those are separate businesses, each one stacked next to each other, that are all now vying for your time and attention, which you don't have enough of to begin with. And so it dilutes it. There are 370 million rough number people in the United States. No matter which business you have, at that 10, 20, 50, $100 million level, you have not engaged with everybody. Okay?
Right.
Just the simple math is you haven't even begun to get there yet. Most people are dying to find an avenue to growth through promotions, pricing, partnerships, acquisition, whatever. They should really back up and say, wait a second, have we gotten the juice out of this squeeze yet? And I don't think enough people do. I think the mentality is all wrong. I think instead what they should do is sit down and say, okay, what part of 100% do we really have? If we made an estimate and said this many people would use wipes realistically, not the stuff you show to the investor the first day when you don't know any better, and you're like, this is a $45 billion category, and if we got even 1%, we'd all be on a price. Yeah. So sit down and make a reasonable expectation. Then take it, by a tenth, and say that's 100%. If that's 100%, where are we now? That's your focus. How are you going to get there? How are you going to increase your sales effort? What are you going to do that the competition isn't doing? How are you going to position yourself to succeed in a way that your competition would never consider doing? Not in a bad way, but are you making phone calls? Are you doing shows? Are you like taking your product out to market, or are you just talking about it? And I think that's what I see more than anything right now is everybody's gotten into such the quick cycle of hurry up and show a revenue or show a growth or whatever, that they've lost all sense of perspective on patience and what the long game is. And so they're literally setting themselves up to blow apart because they refuse to settle back on that one thing and really, really dedicate to it.
Yeah. So the other case study that just popped in my mind, because I'm in Southern California, is of course In-N-Out Burger, and that menu has been limited. And of course, there's a secret menu, and everyone knows that. But almost no one that I know orders from it because, well, there's a whole other story, iceberg story behind that ordering the secret menu. But suffice to say, it's a limited menu. We got burgers and we got burgers, and we got fries, and you can get them cooked a little bit more, or you can get them cooked a little bit less. We've still got French fries. That's it. We don't have onion rings. We don't have curly fries. They're made the way we make them. You can get your burger stacked, 3, quadruple, 4. You can get it paleo style, no bread, but it's still a burger. And that's it. Limited menu, just doing the one thing really well. Repeat, rinse, repeat, wash.
I think people just really
style.
struggle with the idea of consistency.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned fear and getting bored. I would also add to that hubris. Like they think, we're so great that we should be able to read from the dictionary and people will love what we read. Or it's the next door neighbor syndrome, right? The CMO talks to her neighbor and she's like, hey, why don't you guys add a chicken sandwich to that menu? And then suddenly there's a bright idea and the agency gets to hear all about it. Hey, I was talking to a trusted ally.
Brian, I've never had that. I've never had that happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
I really feel strongly we should try add something to that.
My favorite, I think I've mentioned on the show before, is I talk to someone I trust.
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's your neighbor.
Watch the wheels fall off.
Were you playing pickleball last night and you wanted?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
The best ideas. I'm going to create. Let's make a T-shirt. The best ideas are created over pickleball or something like that.
But I think we've often talked off camera about wanting to add a tremendous amount of value to the listener, and I think this is one of those lessons that gets overlooked. People just assume this one's in the bag, and so they move on to other things. But this is a fundamental that gets overlooked and ignored pretty much on the regular. I mean, almost every client we have suffers from this in some form or fashion, where they are, they're starting to get big enough. Someone bought them and now they're feeling like they have to expand, or, sales weren't quite as fast this quarter as they wanted. And so the immediate answer is well, we've got to innovate. We've got to add something to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes what it is your message isn't right. Sometimes what it is, the economy isn't right. Sometimes what it is cash is tight. It doesn't mean that your product is bad. It doesn't mean that your product is wrong. It doesn't mean any of those things. Does it mean you can't optimize? No. What it means is you have a little bit of breathing room to dial in operational efficiency or messaging efficiency or explore a new avenue. And sometimes you have to back up a step to be able to take 3 steps forward. And I just think people are so afraid of the potential for that they freak. They can't stand not being positive. That must mean something. And so they just reach for what they think will fix it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's always meaning that something's needing rather to be fixed. I think a lot of times it's just circumstances were what they were, and not every day is a Jordan for 3 at the buzzer moment. That's just not the way it goes. Some days you miss the shot at the buzzer and then you get up the next day and you go play again.
Yeah. Couple more thoughts on this. I mean, one of this might be generational, Bill. I mean, you and I are Gen X, right? At least last time I calculated. And we remember a day when we took road trips and you know what you did in the car? You looked out the window. Right. You counted the telephone poles going by, or you looked up at the clouds. You didn't have a phone or an iPad, or maybe you're lucky to have the radio, but going through some areas you maybe had AM or something just static sound. So here we are in the TikTok generation, or the Tinder, Hinge, dating app where you're swiping left, right. your immediate gratification. So maybe that's baked in to even, people of all ages. We're just a little less patient. But I'll get off that soapbox and I'll say two other things that are on my mind. One of them is when you're saying, stay the course. Sometimes it's fashion and it's trends. So I think about another big brand in my backyard, Vans. Vans tennis shoes, like been around classic since the 60s. Classic shoe, awesome brand. They're a skateboard brand. That's what Vans does. They're known for skateboard shoes. And 3 years ago, Vans was on fire. Like everyone was wearing Vans everywhere. All over East Coast, West Coast, international. And that trend lasted for a couple of years, and now people are not as hot on Vans. Does that mean that Vans should go start trying to create a football cleat? No. You catch the wave sometimes with these trends, the zeitgeist. You're in it, sometimes you're not in it, but you're still Vans, right? And you can still stay that course.
Yeah, and I think Converse has suffered that a little bit. Converse is like the classic Americana flat-footed basketball shoe, right? Like this was the shoe before everybody started getting fancy pants about them. And they have stayed the course in one way, and boy, are they fucking it up on the other way. Because, the classic shoe is still the classic shoe. Got a couple pairs myself, like love them, right? Couldn't be a happy closet without them. But have you seen them lately?
I haven't been even paying attention to Converse.
They've put puffy backs around them, and then not puffy backs. I'm sorry. They did like a rubber band, like spandex or whatever kind of a thing into them, so that they're scrunchy now, and they don't sit on your heel the right way. They keep popping off. And then somebody did, they had it right, in my opinion, when they allowed people to customize the design. That part, I thought that was brilliant, right? All of a sudden now you get to go on to what everybody agreed was like the most amazing flat canvas ever, and you get to add sprinkles and, patterns and color combos and stuff, and you get to make your own shoe. Thought that was brilliant. On the other side, though, it's like all of a sudden, they're going to add heels to them. I'm not sure that makes a whole lot of sense for this particular brand.
Yeah.
Giving the option for customization, introducing new colors, doing things like that. Yeah, on a classic, that makes all the sense in the world. Even down to the eyelets or the way that you handle shoelaces, shoelace patterns. Like you could have done a number of things with those. But all of a sudden now they're, now we've got like a tall sole, or we've got a, scrunchy back, or we've got a this or that. And they're like, wait, you're changing the formula of what made this brand great. And they're doing it for, the difference between $83 a share and $84 a share. And it's like, come on, guys, let's not lose sight of who we are. We're a long-standing, classic brand.
You make a super good point. I'll just underscore it, which is, when you're out of fashion, or maybe you're not in that trend anymore, like a Converse or Vans, like I spoke about, it doesn't mean you just sit on your hands. You've got to still try to innovate or get creative. So maybe it is a collaboration with Billie Eilish and you're crossing over into music, or it's some other kind of collaboration or something interesting that you're doing. You can't just, sales are down. you still have to do.
But I think, to your point, as long as it's something that makes sense for the core thing, but the second you deviate off of who you are,
right,
consumers smell it. Like it's the second that it's off, you're like, And I think that's more detrimental than anything else, because once that slide starts, then you're in real trouble. I'm sure that you were reading the news announcement that Harley Davidson has decided to start taking bike production over to Thailand. Right. No. As Gen X is right. Brian's shaking his head. As Gen Xers, we shake our head. This is classic Americana brand. What the hell? So I made a post about it the other day, and I got the most interesting response back from it, which was a millennial that said, nobody, he basically called me a boomer, which was insulting. I'm a Gen Xer. Please, boomer my ass.
parents are boomers.
I'm like, exactly.
How dare
and I'm
you?
squarely in the Gen X. We're not like on the fringe here. Anyway, so their response was, Gen Y, millennials, we don't care where it's made. And I'm like, is that true? And they further went on to say, where do you suppose that they source some of their parts? Like, yeah, it's American made, but some of the parts were already made overseas anyway. And so, you know, our generation basically is smarter than your generation. And we understand that this is a global economy and a global operations and a global this and a global that. And, you know, hey, old timer, you just don't get it anymore. Meanwhile, all the rest of the responses that I was getting were damn right, fists in the air, like, how dare you change our brand? Like, in that sense, they certainly seem like they're going to be the next Bud Light in turning their back on their audience's belief in who and what that brand is. What's your take on the whole Harley thing?
I think it's a huge fuck up. I mean, what a huge mistake. Like, talk about a legacy brand, you know, knowing who they are for all these years and then going off the path, you know, literally. I don't understand how someone could do that. It's just like, it's too much. It's out of bounds. It's off brand. And so, you know, we've always said brands are distinct, right? They stand for something. You know what to expect. It's a shorthand. And so if, you know, hey, if they're going to draw a new line in the sand and say, we stand for, you know, being manufactured in Asia, well, you know, that's a new stance and we'll see how far that gets them. If that's what they think they've got to do, I suppose they can do it. I certainly wouldn't do it if I was the CMO.
It's, you know, there are so many CMO things we could be talking about. There's a lot of it, but I think the underscore point to me is just who you are is important, and what you stand for and why you do it is important. And when you go off the reservation of those things, you know, beware the feedback that you're going to get, because it's going to be profound.
Yeah. Well, it just brings it full circle to your point about knowing who you are, knowing what your values are, what you stand for, and having, you know, my point about strategy, which is a target off into the distance. This is the goal that we want to accomplish. This is the strategy. And then, you know, the roads and the tactics, the roads are the tactics that you use to get there, the marketing, whatnot. One more thing comes to mind, and that is, you know, brands do get to decide who they are, but also once you release the product out into the wild, the consumer gets to decide who you are. And that's kind of the beauty of this, right? Like, so we tell, you know, I'm going to tell everyone what the Good Brain brand is, what we stand for, our values, and how we're different. But then when someone actually experiences it, then they get to interpret that. And then that interpretation, that meaning lives in them. And so I think an opportunity is when you create a product and you put it out in the wild. Let's go back to, you know, Vans. Let's say someone like Post Malone loves Vans. I mean, who knew that Post Malone would wear Vans? But if Vans is paying attention and could tap into Post Malone and say, hey, we've been a little out of style for the last couple of years. We're not trending anymore, but Post loves our shoes. That's an opportunity for you to jump on that. Maybe it's something new you discovered. And Post is this really interesting amalgamation of country singer meets rap music versus, well, he's sort of an anomaly, right? But like, if you can tap into someone else experiencing your brand and create or find new audiences around that could be interesting.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't know, this is such an interesting topic for me because I think so many businesses get it wrong. I think so many businesses are so eager to expand or differentiate that they lose themselves very quickly, and you know they make some kind of bizarre mental leaps, you know, and there are the big famous ones, right? Like the purple ketchup from Heinz, or I'm sorry, blue ketchup from Heinz, or the you know, Harley Davidson cologne or Bic pen underwear. This is my all-time favorite. You know, these are the classic like oopses.
Well, maybe that's a good transition to talk about Sara Blakely's new venture, Sneex. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, so it's interesting what she's trying to do. Tell me your thoughts on it.
Well, so for people who don't know who Sara Blakely is, she is probably the most prolific entrepreneur. And, yes, we'll mention her gender because she stands out in that category as one of the strongest. She's sort of like the Richard Branson of female entrepreneurs. She's amazing. She created this product called Spanx. Back in the day, I think she sold fax machines door to door. She was a baller, great at sales, and was sort of fed up with her job, and then, figured out white space in the market that wasn't being served, and that was women caring more about, how they looked, a particular shape. And so she kind of made this undergarment that would help your figure look a little bit better. And so she created this thing called Spanx, and has since become a billionaire. She's been on Shark Tank. She's, speaks everywhere, and she's just amazing. Next chapter, we never knew what she was doing, but she, I guess, was up to something for the past year or so, and just announced this week her new company called Sneex. It's spelled Sneex, kind of playing off the X of the Spanx. That's sort of like maybe her trademark. And it's pretty wild. It's out there, I'll have to say. I mean, it looks to me like an athletic shoe with a stiletto heel. And I think the point of it, obviously this is aimed at women, but I guess the problem that she's trying to solve looks like stilettos are uncomfortable, or high heels are uncomfortable, no matter how you slice it. I mean, I know this because I'm married to someone who wears these all the time, and she complains that her toes are crammed in the toe box and heels are not fun to wear or walk in or run in. And it looks like Sara has made a solution for that. And if you look at the site, you can see all these different variations of colors and styles. Pretty interesting.
So I think under normal circumstances, I would say that this was Fonzie jumping the shark a little bit in terms of, we had, you mentioned hubris before, and it's, I made $1 bajillion doing this other thing, so I'm just going to go and do another one. But here's where I think she actually might be onto something. And this is where I think she might sneak it in under the wire. Ever since COVID, people have been wearing comfortable shoes because they didn't have to wear uncomfortable dress-up shoes, right? Like, when was the last time you slid on a pair of lace-up, hard leather sole dress shoes, right? I mean, unless you were out at an event, there really wasn't a reason why to do it. And so, even what's his name from Shark Tank, who films on the political channels all the time, he always has his second camera back, and you see that he's in a suit and tie from the waist up, and he's wearing
Mr.
jammies
Wonderful.
and flip-flops down on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
I think the reason that this might just be the perfect little window that she's going to jump through is because all people, not just women, are looking for an answer to this thing. My feet have never felt freer, right, since COVID started. And I still want to be able to dress it up a little bit, but I don't want to go back to the toe box. I don't want to go back to, I'm giving myself deformed feet. I don't want to go back to, hammer toes. I don't want to go back to uncomfortable this, that, or the other, giving myself a problem. Give me something that meets in the middle. And you'll notice that she's using Velcro for the closure too. So she's giving expansion. She's not forcing down a lace, and she's made them nice enough that you could get away if your dress was not dress like a dress, but your choice of clothing was contemporary enough. You could totally fly this. And I think that's where, in this instance, she's got a window of opportunity here that may not have existed had COVID not been the thing that it was.
Yeah, great point. Another thing that just strikes me about this is she has created a new category. Yes, it's a shoe, but this shoe has never existed. I mean, you could argue someone's tried to make a more comfortable dress shoe for women, but this is way beyond that, right? This is like a new category. This is like breaking the status quo at the same time. So not only is it, new category, but it's breaking the status quo of, hey, I'm giving you permission to wear this kind of shoe because it's awesome.
It's interesting to watch. There's a video on the website that shows a woman walking in slow motion, so you really get a chance to see how the shoe fits. Mm-hmm. And because you're still walking on your toe, the cushion from the sneaker side of the equation does a lot to make this a much more flexible, easier moving shoe, if that makes any sense. So I'm by no means a shoe expert, and I realize how ridiculous I sound even beginning to give my opinion on women's high heels. But at the same time, just in watching it, this is not a like, I'm wearing heels and I'm tripping kind of thing. This is seemingly a much more stable, much more versatile, much more enjoyable foot experience.
You know what else
I've got to say, I think she's got a pretty good chance on this one. I think this has got the chance to make to go the distance.
Yeah, I spot another little subtle thing. At least to me, it's subtle. Another little video is the shoe being sewn. It says "Made in Spain." So this is not made in Taiwan. Nothing against Taiwan, but made in Spain is a little cooler, or maybe it's a little more associated with fashion, or
for sure.
Than say made in Taiwan, like a kid's toy is made in Taiwan, right? Handcrafted in Spain with luxe fabrics from Italy, Spain, and France. So obviously there's a bit of a luxury fashion peppering here that she wants to convey, and I think that's also very wise. So the hurdle that she has is, hey, Sara, these don't look like what I've been wearing, right? The status quo, what's already acceptable, these look nothing like that. So how do we overcome any objection to that, either from women themselves or from men? Hey, this is a luxury good. This is like, it would be at Fashion Week in Italy. This is what you're going to see. By the way, it's with fabrics from Spain, Italy, and France, where fashion, got its start.
Well, she did a really nice job of being fashion versatile, while at the same time not being out of reach. So she's represented, if you look at the images that they chose, the outfits that they chose on the models, they are fashion forward and fun and interesting. They are not, however, over the top. Like on the one hand, you've got a woman in a jeans jumper, and she's, folded up bottoms and the rest, and it looks great. And then in another, you've got someone in pants, and in another you've got someone in a dress. And so she's done a really nice job of sort of spanning use case through the model set without establishing a particular look, like it's only good for this thing. She's done a great job of saying, no, it's versatile these ways.
Yeah. Well, I scrolled down to the tepper. Do you see the tepper? You've got a beautiful young woman who's dressed in what looks like a soccer jersey and then some sort of like shimmery skirt. So what strikes me about that is actually something I learned from Ralph Lauren back in the day when I worked my way through college with Ralph. Ralph is the master at pairing things that maybe are not obviously paired together. So like Ralph would put like some sort of like sporty athletic shirt under, and then he'd have like a super like $900 sport cashmere coat over the top of it. And he was the king of not being so matchy, right? That's the term we used to use in the day. Like, it doesn't have to be so like Brooks Brothers, who was like boring straight. He would really mix and match, and he would love to put all kinds of different fabrics with different textures and different colors, and so that's what I'm seeing here too. Is there's a little nod, I think, to the athletic look of this green shoe, the tepper. Pairing it with, the super casual top and sort of dressy club style blue shimmering skirt. The other thing that strikes me is these are not cheap. This is a $595 shoe. So it's also, that says a lot about the brand. This is not Payless, sister. This is high-end fashion.
Well, and I think, if she sets this, this is another great lesson for people in knowing your value. If you set a bar, it's a lot easier to live into and up to that bar than it is to progress from a lower price point. So I think she's done a smart thing in coming out and saying, look, these are high quality, they're made abroad, they're a designer thing. I don't know that people are going to have 10 pair in their closet, but I still see this as an affordable enough thing, right? Like it's not crazy.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, to your point, I'm sure some women have no problem spending a few $1,000s on a certain brand that is that expensive. Yeah. So I guess relatively speaking, these might be reasonable. I mean, they're still expensive. So what? So are iPhones too, right? Like, iPhones, $1,200. But this is a $500 shoe or a $400 shoe. Anyway, I think it's a smart statement. It's not an $89 shoe. That says a lot too, right? Like, this is not for everyone. This is someone who cares about fashion and function, utility, but also wants to have some swag.
Yeah, and she's done a good job. We'll have to check back in and see in a year or a couple of maybe 6 months, see how the brand is doing.
Yeah. The other brand that caught my eye this week is, I have 2 dogs. I love dogs, and we have a brother and sister. They're rescues, so they're mixed breeds. But the mother was Staffordshire, which is sort of like a variation of pit bull. They're all black, by the way. And the boy dog is Staffy plus boxer, so he has more of a boxer look. He's about 65 pounds, and then his sister is more like a fox terrier, or she's got a little chow in her, so she has that Staffy plus chow, which giving her sort of a small little, we call her Pickle sometimes, because she's like a stout little pickle with a curly tail. But
I was going to ask if she got the tail.
Yeah, she got the tail. And so I'm always looking for ways to take better care of my dogs or do things, activities, and I stumbled upon this company called We Feed Raw. They reached out to me and, wanted to talk and tell their story. And I just started going down the rabbit hole a little bit, or the dog hole. I like this brand. I think raw food, like this food delivery service, it was hot for humans a few years back. Everyone was getting their food delivered, it seemed like, to their doorsteps. But I could really get into this raw dog food movement. My dogs are 6 going on 7. I'm always curious about how healthy or not healthy the food is. I don't really know what's in it. This seems to be very transparent. It's, raw meals. Basically, it looks like a hamburger patty that comes frozen. You put it in your freezer, you defrost it, and then you feed it to your pet. But it looks great. It looks clean. Let's do a little assessment of their website.
I actually really like it. This is one of the few times that I think text heavier. It's not text heavy. Don't let me stray. But if you go to their site, first off, whoever it was that did the logo, I'm giving props to whoever the designer was on the logo. It's a perfect blend of just cute enough while still being business enough to pull it together. So nice job on that. But this is one of those environments where as you go down, they're sort of following the AP rule, which is, most important thing on the top and then details as you drop. And I think that this is a really nice job of, for a dog lover, for a person who would take the time to sit and go through this information and really scrutinize, what am I buying for my pet? Am I into this? Am I not into this? Is it worth the money? Is it not worth the money? They've done a really, really nice job with this site of taking you through the argument, but keeping the site fresh looking and feeling. I think this is an A+ in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it too. It was easy to navigate. And I actually thought a while back, me with ideas and little side projects, I actually thought about creating my own dog food delivery brand and service. I thought that might be a fun business to look into, just because I care about the dog so much. But some of these other people have already figured it out and are doing much better than me. So, of course, I shuttled that idea. But do you have dogs? Have you ever had dogs?
Yeah, so we do. We have Oreo. He's a Bernie Doodle, and he's awesome.
What do you feed him?
We feed him Science Digest, I think. Rochelle orders it, so it's not on my to-do list. By the time I get involved with it, one of the kids has already put it into the big, Tupperware container. So already, see, I can see Brian's giving me that side eye. He's like, "Oh, you're a dry food man."
I'm a crunchy dad. Oh, I see. So you want your food full of parabens? I see.
Right. Yeah, nice. I see that you only want your dog around for 8 years. Nice. Anyhow. Yeah, so I'm afraid I'm not quite the same level of dog aficionado that you are. Now watch, the hate mail is going to come.
No, I think this is part of the problem. And, whether we're talking about We Feed Raw or whoever it is, there's an incredible amount of arbitrage being done, with media. Like, so everyone's vying for attention and maybe buying attention if you're seeing the ads on Google or if you're seeing them on social media. But I think this is, going back to your, like, we do one thing, really focusing on who it's for and who it's not for. I mean, right away, We Feed Raw, I can tell you, looking at the meal plans, is not cheap. So, and not everyone can afford Sneex that are $500 or We Feed Raw that's, got a custom meal plan that's not as easy as picking up some kibble at the store. So right away, they're eliminating a certain percent of their TAM, and that's okay. Like, who are not for, even if it's like, I'm really sorry that you can't afford this or you don't have the time to think about it, whatever the reason, that's actually a good thing to be, right? Like, this is who we are, unapologetic. If it's not for you, no problem. It's for these people, though. People like Brian, crunchy dads, who care about, how healthy their dog is, their lifespan, or, what they're eating, what they're not eating. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think they've done such a nice job of showing the level of commitment that they have to this one thing. Now, if next week they pop up and they start making, something else, I think it would be a shame, because they've done such a nice job of owning this little corner. I'd be curious if you had them on the show one time, or a conversation where you asked them, what do they think of their success trajectory? Like, what would be 100% success for them in terms of owning this little piece of the market? And I think your comment earlier goes a long way to the insight of what keeps more people from taking the bravery step of launching a company. There's already people out there, they're already doing it, this, that, and the other. There are certainly other competitors out there in the space, independent groups and what have you, that are smaller, that are in this. I'd be curious to hear how they define the success of their brand that way. What would they be looking for to walk away and say, this was a real success. We did it this way, and this was how we measured it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, another example of this kind of approach is this company called Maui Nui. Have you heard of Maui Nui? So if you go to Maui Nui Venison, Maui Nui is pretty famous for, like, their venison meats, and they source it in Hawaii, and it's they actually do it for population control. So, like, I think they have some sort of contract with the government because there's a venison overpopulation, and so they're allowed and allocated a certain amount to kill and get the meat, so that they keep the population down, but also it's some of the most incredibly nutrient dense and delicious meat on the planet. And again, this is their singular mission, right? Like, so, and to your point, they're not, what do they see as success? It's not revenue. It's not stockholder value per se, although there's a lot of investors, these bigwigs like Peter Attia. I think Dr. Peter Attia is I've heard him talk about Maui Nui. I've seen him eat it. When I interviewed him on my other podcast, he was eating one of those meat sticks, not the Slim Jims. Like, this is like real venison meat. Yeah. And so, it just goes back to kind of what you've been talking about, like focusing on that one thing and being unapologetic about it, not going into, diverse places that may not be as valuable, like Maui Nui or We Feed Raw, or, some of these folks are just double down on their singular vision.
Without a doubt. I think that's an interesting place to call the pod today.
Set the pod? Okay, I like it.
I think maybe.
So as an invite to anyone else who is listening that wants to be on the show, either toss your hat in the ring to be one of our case studies. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you think you would like to come on the show and talk about your brand, case studies, or ask Bill and I questions so we can do put you in the hot seat and do like a live evaluation diagnostic, we would love to entertain that as well. I'll put the link in the show notes, and ball is in your court.
Can't wait. I've already gotten a couple of people that are reaching out asking about it, so we'll continue to vet them and see if we can get some folks on.
All right. See you next week.